Now in the last episode, we finally got the big block sitting in something, whether or not it was the Monaco, but it is this beautiful 1980 Dodge short bed. What happened was we had to take the driver's side valve cover off to actually fit inside here because the brake booster in this model truck is a larger diameter. We have a fix for that, but the first part of this whole scenario here is to take and remove our old brake booster. Nice and crusty. What we can do is actually buy a 3/4 ton brake booster. And what they did was, it was a shorter diameter, but it was a little bit longer and pushed a little bit further out from the firewall. But luckily it uses the exact same master cylinder, so all this will bolt right up. Our original brake lines should work. So we'll get all of that sorted out, but this also gives me the opportunity for a little bit extra room. So now we can actually, move around here, put our headers on, get our linkage sorted out as far as like the throttle cable and everything. So while we wait for our new parts to come in, we're going to tackle just a little bit of detail work to make this truck look a lot better. Okay, so I need to unbolt. Well, that's going to be easy to change out on the other one. I thought it was going to have to like change the whole bracket set. Man, they made these trucks so nice to work on as far as like changing things. Except now it's going to hit the heater box. There you go. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
It's not over. Happy birthday again.
You shouldn't have.
This is the pedalless truck now. It's all Flintstone powered. This is why it pays off to have some extra parts laying around. Don't ever throw anything away because you never know when you might need it. And if you guys have seen my channel for a long time, I mean I'm talking a long time ago, this truck is the donut truck. It's where Dad just held a truck to the floor wide open and just kept doing donuts in the field until it couldn't run anymore. This is this truck right here. So it had an automatic pedal setup. It's been sitting here waiting to be used for more parts because Dad gutted it to use for his petty truck, and here it is. It's been sitting out in the field, but you never know if you might need something. So if you could store something, if you're able to keep up with having something stored like this, it's definitely worth it to have some extra parts.
Dylan, we have perfectly good hammers.
Where?
In the shop.
Oh, well, a smog pump does the trick when you don't feel like walking all the way back up there. Go. Oh, stuck. Did it move at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Ow!
Can a real man do it for you?
Is there one here?
Oh, you didn't have to do me like that.
Why did that other one come out so easy, but this one's just fighting every bit of it? It's because the whole thing is rusty. Another good point of one parts truck is to have two parts truck. That rod would not come out. This one did pretty good. What was happening was this rust was so bad it couldn't slide through the bushing in the pedal. So we went over here to this other truck that was being used for parts as well. We can pop this pedal out, no problem. Happy birthday. Brand new pedal in. Now all we need is our brake booster. Alrighty. So just to make sure we don't blow up anything from overheating while we do a cam break in, I've just completely bypassed the heater core. Our coolant hoses are just doing one big loop. So we'll just leave that open and do its thing. And then whenever we cam break in, all that good stuff, make sure everything's going to work, then we'll hook up our heater core because there's always a chance that that thing could be cracked, leaking, and we don't need coolant pouring out into the cab while we're trying to break something in. Maybe I should read the instructions before I spray it on there. This stuff, I don't know if they even make this anymore. I don't think they do. But a friend of mine had one of these cans explode after he bought a bunch of them. He said, I don't want them. So I ended up getting all these brand new. Carefully read all instructions before use. Oops. Passenger side is in.
How we doing, Dylan? Good. Almost done. One last bolt in the dipstick tube, and then we can drop the truck back down, finish up top side, and maybe start it. That concludes the remainder of anything related to the transmission besides the drive shaft. Now that that's all in, we can fill it up with transmission fluid and get it ready. We may do that, and then we have to get the radiator hoses on, so we can do that real fast. I hope I have clamps. I don't know. Alright. Radiator hoses are on. That means that our coolant system is technically complete, minus a cap. Then we'll throw the overflow bottle whenever the time comes, but it's looking very nice in here. Looking very good. I may replace this radiator if it's no good. It was just with the truck, and it looks like, I don't think it's an original tank. It doesn't have any stampings from Chrysler, so my guess is that it's an unoriginal tank. So they probably bought this to fit in this truck. Now you can buy one, but a lot of them come with a plastic tank. I don't know if I want to put one of those in there. Nothing wrong with those. It's just I kind of like the metal tanks. So everything's hooked up. We have just a few more small things to do, a couple more things to paint, but it's really, really starting to shape up and look like a truck once more.
We're this close to firing up this 400 for the first time. We got to bolt up the headers. We've got all of our accessories up front, pretty much tightened up. Power steering, alternator. I think everything's ready to go. We still have to secure a carburetor. I got to put that on, and then again rig up the distributor, get all of our wiring set up, which that shouldn't be very hard to do because all of this is still here. I haven't touched it just because of that fact. We have a distributor on the way. I have a Performance Distributor DUI brand distributor on the way, and we're going to use that because it's all just one wire. It's really nice. But for the time being, we'll use the factory distributor just to make it run and see how everything works. But it's really coming together. I fixed on this valve cover in the last video where it bumped up against this brake booster. We'll get that hooked up, throttle cable get hooked up. We're this close. We are so close to hearing this thing for the first time. There's nothing like hearing a good running big block with open headers. So I hope we get to that point. Hope. Headers installed. Looks good, don't it? I'm going to put a manual temp gauge for our monitoring purposes. I will use this as an external situation here. I want to get the original one working, but this is just for a break-in period here, just to make sure that everything's going to go okay. I have that as well as a thermal gun that will help us watch things and check for hot spots, but this will give us a really good idea of how this thing's running. This is the old Demon carburetor. I think it's a 600. It's my Will It Run carburetor. If I have something that needs one swapped out or something, I'll use it. And I definitely did not steal it off of a running vehicle. So this is just, you know, nice and chilling on the shelf when it's time. So it's waiting its turn. The last video, we primed the oil system and made sure everything was ready to go as far as getting oil up into the rocker system. So I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Just make sure that we have plenty of oil circulation. I'm spinning the oil pump right now. You can hear oil pressure building. You hear air actually pushing past it. I'm going to kind of go slow so I don't make a mess. Now we had to do this last time. We had to rotate the engine to align all of the oil feed passages within the cam bearings, the crank bearings, to get them up here. I've already done that, but I just want to make sure that this pump is ready to go. All right. I wanted to do that before we put the cam gear back in and then the distributor on top of it. I feel confident about it. I feel like things are going to go okay. You know, probably cut to this at the very end when the entire thing blows up. But at least we're confident right now. This is a points distributor. The reason I'm using this is because I know this is a good unit. It's a reman distributor, has a brand new set of contacts in it, and it was just running like a month ago. So I'm going to drop this in here because it's very simple to wire up. I'm not going to have to worry about fixing things while we're trying to make it run. The last thing you want to be doing is troubleshooting wiring when you're trying to get a cam brick into occur. So we're going to start with this thing. All it takes is a coil, a hot wire to the battery, and it should run. So again, we're going to go with a one wire distributor when it comes in, but for the break-in period, we're going to use this. There we go. Now I do have this thing on top dead center. So we have the engine basically right at the mark where it needs to be. So when we put the rotor button in, it should be pointing at the number 1 contact on the distributor. So then we'll run our plug wires in accordance to that. All of it comes down to right now. We've got our distributor, our coil hooked up. Here's our hot wire. Okay. We've got fuel. I guess here goes nothing. Everything clear. Something's up with our ignition switch. It's not wanting to work. Get the old trusty power probe out. There we go. Are you ready? Yeah. A bit of fuel. All right. There we go. good ground.
Do you get a fuel pump hooked up?
It's not spinning at all. It ought to spin. I think the starter's bad. That's all I can guess. Something happened and it shorted itself out or something. Like, it's not disengaging. I crawled up under there and looked at the torque converter, and the teeth of the starter are still in it. And I'm able to spin the engine over by the torque converter, but for some reason the starter just won't engage. I mean, it's not hard to make these things work, but I don't know. I really can't figure it out. I mean, it spun over like for what, half a second maybe? And then after that, it just can't do anything. I didn't change anything at all. And I just wonder if something burned up inside. Because it's a reman starter, but I've never had one go bad. Like right out the gate. So, I guess we need to take it out. Well, never mind. That's not the problem. The starter is not the problem. We have to keep on searching, I guess. I don't know. So if you ever want to know how annoying it can be to work on these old vehicles, let me just explain what happened. In that last clip, the starter wasn't working, and you saw me take it off and bench test it outside the truck, and it wouldn't work. I replaced the starter, still the same exact problem. So I've been going through all this wiring. Now, believe it or not, this is about 90% factory harness. I mean, other than like these two connectors right here, this is all original and exactly how it came from the factory. Now, the problem is that I thought that, there could have been something wrong. Maybe I did something incorrectly. I've done everything I can. I've bypassed every bit of this. I went straight to the starter with a battery cable, and it still wouldn't work. Could not figure out what it was. Lo and behold, my ground cable right here. It's just a bolt that goes right here, goes right up to the battery. I added that one, and there's a ground strap at the back of the engine. I was getting 12 volts where it needed to, but this ground was not working. Turns out, all I had to do was clean this bolt, do a little sanding on the backside. Everything now magically works. I replaced this. It's got brand new battery cables. How? I don't understand how that could have been the entire issue, but just a bad ground was the whole problem all along. I've spent an entire day checking every single wiring thing that I could possibly think of, and it comes down to that bolt right there, not being clean. It had a little rust on it, and then just a little bit of rust on the back side of it. As soon as I cleaned it up, works good as new. So now we're going to push it outside and try to do the cam break-in. And we've simulated a few things here. We have our electric pump, auxiliary tank, sitting out here trying to eliminate any possibilities of failure. Got a giant fan to keep it from overheating, hopefully. And this is our alternator. I've unplugged everything. I don't want anything to be attached to this engine for break-in, just because I don't know how the wiring is. We're going to eliminate all of it. Just straight up distributor, and that's it. Only thing that's powering it. Let's see what we got going on here. This is a mess, by the way. This looks horrendous, but it's going to work. And then once we get everything dialed in, we'll clean it up and make it look better. Let's break in a cam. Ooh, she's a 180 out, ain't she?
So instead of dealing with all the points that I had going on, I've just converted everything back to electronic ignition with the factory harness, and let's hope that it works. Well, I think everything went okay for the cam break-in process. I was a little bit worried there, but once we changed over to this electronic ignition, things started to kind of look up and work a little bit better. Those points distributors, I mean, they just get a little finicky. It was on a running vehicle, and I don't know, just wasn't happy. But we're happy now because everything is okay. Now, whenever we had this thing running, we were showing like 40 PSI, hot idle. whenever it was finally you know, running and broke in, everything was good. 40 psi at that with 1040, and then the thermostat stayed open once it warmed up and never budged off of that, so that's a good sign. Our radiator didn't seem like it leaked anything, so I think we're okay. This clutch fan really did a good job. So now we can really start cleaning up all this right here. This is, oh, it makes me irritated. But it's all factory. This is literally how the factory basically just left it. We just kind of hang wherever it felt like. So I'm going to fix a lot of this, clean it up, remove things that we don't need, make it look a little bit more tidy, and rig up everything inside. We're going to clean up some stuff on the inside and the outside as well. I have a bunch of stuff in here that needs to be cleaned up. We're going to hook up our brake system, get that working, rebuild the brakes. I'd like to put a new seat in here, clean up the rubber floor mat, clean up this, possibly repaint this. I don't know if it's busted or not. I'm going to fix that. Really get in here and clean up all this factory paint underneath. I think that will look really shiny and new if we clean it up nicely. So we have a lot of work left ahead of us, but we have a little bit of peace of mind knowing that the engine is going to be okay. That is one of the most stressful things, is starting an engine after doing all that work. I mean, I didn't even do a full rebuild on this engine, and still, there's a lot of work in this thing. A whole lot of work. One thing can go wrong and mess up the whole situation. Luckily, thank the Lord, we made it work. Would you look at that? The old truck moves under its own power for the first time in a very, very long time. Now what we did off camera was I got the drive shaft back in, throttle linkage hooked up, kick down and everything working. Still got to work on the shifter. It's not that great, but it's good. It's getting there. Filled up the transmission completely with fluid, and it took forward and reverse gears. We don't have any brakes yet, so I have to be kind of careful when I pull this thing out. But it moves. It definitely moves under big block power. So it's awesome. I cannot wait to see this thing actually hit the road. But, looks like it's about to rain. I'm going to pull it back inside and continue to work. Except my ignition switch is bad. One sec. Whew. That was a lot of work. A little bit stressed at the beginning there. The cam break-in almost was a flop, but it worked out. I was this close to pulling my hair out, but luckily I didn't have to. And if I did, I wouldn't have to worry because of our sponsor today, Keeps. Keeps is a subscription service that helps men keep their hair. Because did you know that 2 out of 3 men will experience hair loss before they're 35? I'm getting close. Keeps doesn't even require a trip to the pharmacy. It's doctor recommended, and it'll get shipped straight to your door for about half the cost. Now, if you're looking to prevent hair loss, promote some hair growth, or just take better care of your hair in general, Keeps has got you covered. Physicians will help lead you to the right products and treatments to attain your hair goal and make you look your best self. Hair loss stops with Keeps. If you want 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/McCool or click the link down in the description below. That's KEEPS.com/McCool. Thanks for sponsoring Video Keeps. Let's get back to it. Ooh, today is going to be a good day. Look what just showed up. The DUI distributor from Performance Distributors. I love these things. I put one on my Mustang too, and one is about to go into the big block truck. This thing is awesome. It's all one wire integrated, so you just have to have a power wire and it's got a tack output, Super simple, super easy to wire in, and it already comes pre-curved. So you tell them exactly what you want, your setup, cam duration, rear gear, all that good stuff, and they will curve it for you. This one in particular is 22 degrees of mechanical advance, all in at 3,000 RPM. So we're going to shoot for, you know, like 12 to 14 degrees initial, and then this will already be ready to go. It'll just drop in and go. And on top of that, we got the live wire plug wires to match. Now, red is going to stand out. I thought the red plug wires and the red distributor cap would look really good with our turquoise. I'm not gonna lie, that looks way better. It pops in comparison to what we had, and it really highlights that turquoise. Now, all we had to do to make this work was run a simple power wire right here on the HEI. And then the other wire here, the input is for a tack, so we'll run that wire whenever we get to that point, get a tack in the truck. But all it is just a simple one wire situation. The coil is on top, the HEI module is inside, nothing really else needed to make this work. Now on top of that, I cleaned up some wiring. You can see here, I'm still going to loom this. I've got some on the way, but I cleaned it up to make it look a little bit nicer and got a new voltage regulator in, rewired that because the connector was just absolutely destroyed. We got rid of all of the emission stuff. Everything that was related to like EGR and all that garbage is gone. So it's simplified, and again, I've made some better connections. If you remember that twist tie that was right here, that's the main wire that powers like all the lights and everything else, and that's fixed. Got a new connector on it, and we're gonna really clean up all this and put it up in a loom so it looks a little bit better. But we'll film that in a short bit. First off, what we need to do is just listen to this thing run. Got everything wired up, make sure everything's charging, and good to go. One more thing I managed to figure out was why the ignition switch wasn't working, so we can start it and shut it off with the key from inside the truck. Now obviously the performance aspect of this distributor is probably the best improvement, but not only that, but we lose so much extra nonsense. We no longer need an ignition module, this ballast here, an external coil, and then this ancient outdated distributor to make this thing run. It's all self-contained. It's all one wire, all in the distributor, and it looks awesome. It's so much better than what we had before. So thank you, Performance Distributors, for sending out one of these for this truck. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys go out and check them out. Alright, so we got a lot done today. We got the truck running and technically driving under its own power for the first time in 14 years. This big block 400 in this truck sounds wicked. I love the way that it runs, it looks good, and we still have some improvement to do, but overall I'm very happy with how this truck has turned out. So if you want to see the next part, make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss anything, and it's only going to get better from here. So I appreciate you watching. Thank you guys so much for all that you do, and I'll see you in the next one.